Hey all, welcome to Spoonies United. So in the last part of the overview, I talked about paradigms. The one thing I forgot to mention is I'm adding my own little twist to Tony's book overview. So Tony doesn't talk about things like paradigms and paradigm shifts, those kind of things. I'm adding that to add some context. I really want Tony's message to have a big impact on you. And so to do that, I'm adding my own little twist. And I'm going to do that at the beginning of this part as well. But in the second half of the part, I'm going to start to talk about Tony's message. So I would say people have this common perception. So what's a common paradigm that people have surrounding what a normal life looks like? So an example could be, you're born, you crawl, you walk, you run, you go to school, you graduate, you go off in your career, you build your nest egg, you retire, you travel, you get old, you get sick, and then you die. And so this is what people think a normal life is, here in the US, and it could differ depending on where you're from. But people also have really high expectations as well in regards to what a normal life looks like. So when people think of a normal life, they think of things like white picket fences and houses. They think of the picture perfect family with 2 kids and a dog. And where do these paradigms or where do these expectations come from? So they come from things like TV, magazines, and social media. So I think social media is a great example of how people's expected or expectations for what a normal life is like come from. A lot of people, when they post things on Facebook, they're posting these, picture perfect images of their families that are happy and smiling and feeling good. Maybe they're on vacation. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I post nice pictures of my family. But what I'm saying is people's perceptions get skewed. They think normal life is happy family all the time. But reality is very different. So what if I was to tell you there was something really wrong with this family? So they seem happy on the surface, but maybe inside they're suffering. Maybe there's something really wrong. Maybe one or more of the family members have a health issue. Maybe this family is feeling a lot of dissatisfaction in their life. What's happening to this family is their reality is not meeting their high expectations. This family thinks normalcy is white picket fences, a normal, long, healthy life, but their reality is dealing with health issues. It's not supposed to be happening to them at this time in their life. And when their reality does not meet expectations, that creates additional dissatisfaction in their life. So what if I was to tell you their perception of what a normal life is like might be broken? So a couple facts. There's 133 million Americans that have some type of chronic illness. Another fact, there's around 50 million people that have chronic pain and around 50 million people that have some type of disability. And another fact is illness can occur anywhere in the life cycle. It can occur before birth. It can occur, more in advanced age. So I want to introduce you to some new ways of thinking about some of these health challenges. And some of these, paradigms I'm going to cover might be a little controversial. But let's look at maybe a broken paradigm around health. So here's a typical perception of health. Life is supposed to be white picket fences. You live a happy, full life. You get old, you get sick, and you eventually die. So what if I was to tell you, and so this sounds nice is what I'll say. This sounds like a pretty nice normal life. But what if I was to tell you that this perception or paradigm is skewed? Maybe it's not accurate. Maybe it actually doesn't serve you well in your life. So let's look at a different paradigm to replace that previous paradigm with. So here's another one. Life can be happy and fulfilling, but part of the life experience is suffering. So things like chronic illness, pain, physical challenge, it can occur anywhere in the life cycle. Now you might be thinking it's a little bit negative. And yeah, I would agree with you, but my response to that is, I think it's more realistic. And maybe this paradigm serves us better. It creates a more realistic expectation of what a normal life is like. And so there's I would say additional or a decrease in dissatisfaction when we have more realistic expectations. Now, there's one thing that's really important to me I want to be clear about. So there has been families that have been through horribly tragic things, and some of these people I know. So I don't want to minimize those things that people have gone through. So I don't want you to, I hope nobody gets angry about this, but I don't want you to think, oh, he's just saying this is part of life. No, I'm not saying that. There's been people and families that have experienced beyond tragic things. And I'm just saying, hey, I'm not saying if you just reset your expectations, everything's going to be great. No way. Having those horrific things, you're going to have, there's no really words to describe, but there's going to be intense emotions around it. And that is obviously completely normal. The only thing I'm saying, and the point I'm trying to get across is, our expectations for a normal life is high. And I think most, reality is our reality is not going to be as high as our expectations. And that just creates some additional dissatisfaction in our life. That's it. So I don't want to minimize the tragic things that people have experienced in their life. So that's my own twist on the overview of Tony's book. But what I want to do now is I want to talk about things Tony mentions. She has this kind of some big ideas as well. And so Tony has this quote from her mentor, Byron Katie. It really appealed to me. And so Tony's quote, or Byron's quote, I should say, is, you can argue with the way things are, but you're going to lose 100% of the time. And so one of the things that Tony mentions in her book, when somebody first experiences illness, pain, or other physical challenges, there's almost this desire to resist it, to fight it. And I'm not saying don't do things that are in your control, but there's almost this resistance or this desire to fight it for things that are outside of our control with these health challenges. Or maybe there's even this desire to try to hide and run away from it. Tony says that this fighting, this resistance, this running away from our reality creates additional suffering. Tony says we have to accept that life is going to be joyful and happy, but also times of suffering, bad emotions, anger, depression, anxiety around some of the health challenges we'll have in our lifetime. And so one of the things Tony says is we really need to be able to first fully accept our situation. What's in our control, what's not in our control. It's not that, I don't think we can fully heal until we fully accept what's going on with our life. And if you've had something recently happen to you that completely changes your life, one of the things you'll probably need to do first is fully accept the changes in your life. The other thing as well is Tony says we need to fully accept that life is happiness, but suffering as well. That, unfortunately, it sounds negative, but again, I'm saying it's realistic. So now what I want to do is we're going to look at some different paradigms based off of what we've covered in this part of the overview. We're first going to look at a common broken paradigm surrounding illness, pain, and other physical limitations. And maybe this is your current paradigm. So a broken paradigm example would be, why is this happening to me? Life is not fair. This is not supposed to be happening to me at this time in my life. So that paradigm would not serve you well in your life. Let's look at an example of a better way to look at things that could potentially serve you better. So part of the life experience is joy and happiness. But also part of the life experience is suffering. We can learn to accept or fight this reality. Suffering is something that can be managed wisely, and we can leverage it as an opportunity to grow and mature emotionally. So one of the things I challenge you to do is maybe start to rethink about how you see things, how you see your situation. Do you have a broken paradigm surrounding your illness or pain? And if so, what is a better paradigm that you can replace it with? And you could have a paradigm shift. Again, your emotional response might not be as big as Stephen Covey's, but even a small change in your perception can change your feelings, your thoughts, and steer you down a completely different path. In the next part of this overview, I'm going to start to talk about the things Tony does to manage her thoughts and her feelings. Thank you.